So, turning to today's event, this is the second conversation in a two-part series we've been having called Exploring the Past, Present, and Future of Youth at Work. During the first event back in November, we looked at the growing crisis of child labor and really what we could do to address that. In today's conversation, we're going to talk less about what we prevent and kind of more what we foster and facilitate in terms of good jobs for age-appropriate youth. And we'll have a particular focus on thinking about teenage workers today. Just a few quick kind of facts and stats to ground us a bit in today's conversation. So the Fair Labor Standards Act governs a lot of youth employment. It basically says young people must be 14 to work and can only work up to 3 hours per day during the school year. There's some exceptions to all of that. And there are restrictions on what industries teens can work in up until 18 as well. Maybe not enough restrictions, but there are some restrictions that prohibit work in certain industries to try to protect our young people. We currently have about 6 million teens between just 16 and 19 working today, about 2 million of them between 16 and 17, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They're typically working in the industries we associate with young people's work, leisure and hospitality, retail, and some in education and health services. Median wages are about 15 or 16 bucks an hour, but obviously that can vary widely by states given minimum wage laws. Currently, the unemployment rate for 16 to 19-year-olds is about 14%, so it's almost, triple kind of the national average for adults. What these numbers tell us, gives us a sense of kind of the scale of teen employment, but they don't tell us much about the quality of those jobs, which is really what we're here to talk about today. They don't tell us whether a young person's first job builds confidence, helps them build skills, provides mentoring, opens doors, fosters inclusion and belonging, or whether these jobs, simply fill kind of hours and pay a basic wage and is more of a transaction. And those differences matter enormously, right? I think research consistently shows that positive early work experiences correlate with better employment outcomes later in life. So the question we're here to answer today is not just can we get teens a job and whether they're working, it's really how do we get them jobs that are worth doing? And I think we as a society have accepted somewhat that bad jobs are inevitable for people's first jobs. We've kind of normalized this idea that your first job is something it's a rite of passage and maybe something you have to endure, rather than an experience that we should really be investing in and structuring appropriately. But that's the story of our larger economy too. We've accepted bad jobs as kind of this fixture of our economy, that low wages, unpredictable schedules, few opportunities for advancement and growth are just a natural part of our economy, or a natural part of certain jobs. And that has costs for workers of all ages. But it can have really bad costs for young people in particular because they're often entering the labor market kind of at the bottom, right? And they have little leverage to demand better. So when we treat kind of low quality jobs as inevitable, it lets businesses, policymakers, and institutions off the hook. And I think we've been saying for a while now, these are choices, and it doesn't have to be that way. I think the other part of today's conversation is being a little bit honest about, for many young people, work isn't optional, right? They're not doing it because they want to save money for a car. They're not doing it to build their resume or to think about how it might support their college application. They're doing it because they need to contribute to their household's income, right? Many of the families around the country themselves are kind of caught in this cycle of low wage jobs with unpredictable schedules and insufficient benefits. And for many households, teenagers are a part of helping supplement the income so that those families can meet their basic needs. So when we talk about job quality for young workers, it's really a bigger story about the wider economy and the crisis of job quality that we're facing. And I think part of what we're talking about today too is that as long as we have and allow low quality jobs and worker exploitation to exist anywhere in our economy, young people are always going to be amongst the most vulnerable to that exploitation and to low quality work. As I said, they're entering the labor market kind of at the bottom rung, right? They have less experience oftentimes, they have less power to negotiate, and fewer alternatives overall. So part of the answer for creating better jobs for teens is creating better jobs for everyone, raising the floor for everyone, ensuring that all jobs meet a basic standard of decency and fairness. But I think we're going to take a deeper dive in today into what else teens need to make sure that first job is a good job. This requires more intentional investment, more intentional design around things like supervision and skill building and mentorship and making sure that teens can balance school with work. So that it turns into a real, genuine developmental experience rather than just a transaction. And our wonderful panel is going to take a deep dive into that today.